And I guess when I first met my wife, it yeah, I don't know what to say. It's our communication has been, it was like a real roller coaster, and being in that fight or flight mode, it carried over into my relationship and into my marriage. And my wife is deaf, so it hasn't been. It's been a when I say an emotional, a communicational, it's been a roller coaster. It has. It's I'm not here to talk about communication, but you know, my the communication that I have with my wife is no different to what you have with your partner, and whether they're deaf or not doesn't matter. It's exactly the same. It's just we do it in a different way. But I
But for those who
I
don't know, yeah, your wife's in the deaf community. She's hard of hearing, or like
no
95%
deaf. Yeah, well,
deaf. Yeah.
yeah, her identity is deaf. She's deaf. I mean, there's lots of different terms around it, and depends on up to the individual what they identify as. So, and in turns, like it was so easy for me to make a phone call than to organise something, and like because it was. But then what I didn't know that all these things that I was doing, I was taking away from my wife, but it was also adding so much pressure and so much extra stress onto me because I was been the main breadwinner for so many years, and I think it's 1 year today actually that I've been out of. I'm a plumber by trade. It's 1 year today that I've been out of plumbing. So by choice, I was forced, but then by choice, and COVID helped me see that, and and
That's a bit of
what
gold just there. So before you go any further, like you were talking about taking everything on yourself, you being the main breadwinner, and not only that, but just taking on as much as you can yourself. And I'm assuming at the time, with the intentions of just taking the stress off your wife and just taking as much on you can to relieve the stress on other people.
Well, that's right. And like, learning from my dad, I was going down the road of being emotionally unavailable as well. So having all those emotions from my childhood and from everything that's happened for me over the past 38 years, or 36 years at that time, um, having suppressing them, and only adding to like what my wife was going through. Every couple of years she'd have a breakdown. She'd really rely on me to because she at that time she wasn't comfortable with being deaf. She was always left out in her family, and I started to take those emotions on as my own. So having my emotions and then taking her emotions on as my own, and they weren't mine to take on, but it's just what I did.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's really, really common, isn't it, amongst
yeah, it is.
sons?
Yeah, it is, and it's everything just sort of started to become too much, and like with the communication barrier, I guess it was frustration. And although I thought I was over my childhood issues, I just found something else to replace it with. So my the frustration, it eventually turned to anger, and then my self talk about my partner, it wasn't healthy. And for anybody listening, that if your self talk about your partner isn't healthy in your mind, how can you expect a healthy relationship in reality?
Yeah.
Because it took a lot to change that. But I guess the catalyst for my change was, we did meet a well, I guess it's and now this is, I'm putting myself out there. Like I've never had, well, I suppose it was a fantasy of mine to have a threesome, I guess, and it was I was pretty wild there for a while, but I had the threesome. Just my wife just wasn't involved, and I was sort of seeking instant gratification for how I was feeling, and and then what I said at the start about a borrowed experience, I was seeking so much help from my friends, and just trying to validate what I'd done, that I had to start being accountable. Like I was at rock bottom. I tied the noose, and I just hadn't had a, I hadn't just made a date. So I knew how I was going to do it. I just hadn't made a date. So, and at that time, you know, my daughter, I couldn't do it because I just love my daughter too much. You know, and she grew up just. I mean, it was first few years were great, but then my anger, she was scared of me. That really affected her, you know. So she's 11 now. She's 10, 11. Yeah, she's 11 this year, and yeah. So I mean, from when our kids are born to when they're, you know, 7 or 8, they learn the traits of take on the traits of our own. So now I've got to spend the next 7 years trying to undo all the shit that I instilled into her as what I put them through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that's real vulnerability there, mate. That was awesome.
Yeah.
There's some huge gold in there, and I think there's going to be so many people out there. We've got a bunch of viewers on now. Say hello, everyone. Hey, Jacob. Thanks for saying hello. If you're watching, say hello. Let us know you're here, because yeah, this what Reece is dropping. Like a lot of people think they're alone in these thoughts and in these situations, and sort of where he's been. So it's I think it's incredible what Reece is showing, that you're not alone. It's actually a lot of this stuff is a lot more common than anyone will let on.
And as hard as that was at the time to take accountability of what I did, and you know, take accountability for the way I was treating my wife, and I essentially, like, taking on that role of organising everything. I essentially took her voice away, because she's like she does a lot of things now that I used to do, and she's quite capable of doing it. It's just I had to just let go of that control. And you know, being an angry tradie, you know, I'm not too sure where you guys are from, but we got a major highway here from Brisbane to the Sunshine Coast that a lot of people commute backwards and forwards every day. Now, if you're in the right hand lane trying to pass somebody, and you got some angry guy in high vis coming up behind you, screaming and shaking his fists at you, telling you to get out of the way, that was me. That was me. And yeah, mate, I see that. I see it so much on the roads today. It's just it's sad how many people are just so angry, but so unaware.
And that's one thing you sort of touched on there. So taking the stress away from your wife by organizing everything and taking everything on yourself. And, you know, for most of us, it's like this white knight thing, and we're sort of, you know, being really great and looking after everything and just making sure that she can relax and all that. But I guess what you're showing is that she's going to wear it either way. She's going to have weight either way. So when you're part of a relationship of two people, you're going to wear half the weight. So if you're taking away all this, you know, organizing and all this stress every day, sort of day-to-day stress from her, then you take it, wear it upon yourself. When it spills back onto her again, it spills back on anger. So she's still
Oh,
wearing just
mate.
as much weight, but she's wearing it in your anger. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Do you
definitely,
think that's
mate. She
what was
was,
happening?
yeah, it was 100%. She was walking around on eggshells. So GC, she just suppressed, and she was, yeah, she was scared of. I suppose in turn, it was emotional abuse. It was. It was an emotional abuse relationship, and you know, admitting that, it's sort of, I suppose it hurts a little bit. Um, Taking ownership of it, definitely, it's what was going on. And for her to be in fear, to get to get in trouble for saying the wrong thing. I mean, nobody should have to go through that. And I think you know, being in a relationship now, like all this, like when I had the affair, I guess it was good at the time, but then when I took accountability of what I actually done, and you know, the betrayed trust, it was it wasn't good at it wasn't good at the time, but now I look back on it, it had to happen. It had
Yeah.
to happen because, you know, we have. I mean, I'm so grateful that she did stick around. And look, don't get me wrong, we made this. We made the choice to separate. We the house was on the market with the real estate was involved. We were sitting down, going through our assets amicably, and well, I can remember we were at the computer and we were typing things up, and I felt an internal energy shift, and she must have felt the same thing. And we were living in the same roof, and we were like obviously sleeping in separate bedrooms because she was doing her thing, I was doing my thing, and yeah, we just I don't know, it was just we were meant to stay together. So
Yeah, it's incredible.
mm, mm,
Well, but
yeah.
I guess, for most stories, it'll either won't be amicable, it'll just turn sour and go bad because maybe both people just want to hold on to their shit and find validation and all that sort of stuff. But not only were you sort of open to seeing the other side of everything that was going on, like you had that you had that growth mindset, you were open minded, I guess, to
Well, I was to some. Oh, look, I started working on myself, and this was in early 2019. I invested in myself. Anyway, it was about 3 months in. I thought, oh, yeah, I'm sweet. I'm fixed. I'm right. I stopped doing the work, and yeah, had a relapse and just went. That's when my wife told me, "No, it's over. I've had enough." And then yeah, we put the house on the market and did all that sort of stuff, and then but when we come back together, there was a lot of pushing and pulling there, but like there was some things that my wife had to own, and like a lot of things that I had to own as well. So now that we're in a relationship, a growth minded relationship, that we can tell each other when we don't like what the other person's doing, and intelligently. And don't get me wrong, like it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to get back into a relationship. Like we had no idea, or I had no idea what intimacy was. I knew what it was, but there was just felt like a sense of fear around just actually, giving her what she wanted.
yeah,
And her love language is physical touch, and she likes to receive it in cuddles and kisses and all that sort of stuff. And I had to learn that stuff. I had
yeah.
to relearn it, because I mean, when we come into a relationship, a brand new relationship, like how good's the fire? How good's the passion? But
You have that fantasy at the start.
oh yeah, and essentially, for all those years, I was just living with a roommate, and it just, I guess, something had to give,
So
and
how's the sense of pride? Sorry, hi Troy, by the way. Thanks for jumping on and commenting. And hey, everyone else, don't be afraid to jump on and say hello and ask questions, guys. Ask all the questions. I'm not the only one here doing it because I'd like to hear what everyone else wants to ask, wants to say. Yeah, that's some awesome stuff. Like you really obviously put yourself out there and setting a great example for everyone. And one thing I wanted to ask just there, like that pride, something around pride where you sort of had to relearn love languages and relearn all that sort of stuff. And I guess for a grown man, there's a sense of pride there that, no, I'm a fucking love machine. Like I don't need to know anything else. I'm great. But
yeah,
how's the
well, look,
pride of actually relearning it then? Like how the pride comes in there as well, doesn't it?
it does, and I guess sometimes it's still not easy. It's not easy to do it, but there are times where I've had to remind my wife, is like, I'm doing all this stuff for you, but it's you got to give something back to me. And like I often ask myself, or I tell some of my clients that uh, how how can I meet your needs to ensure my needs are met? So it's there are five love languages, and mine is physical touch, and hers is also physical touch, but we receive it in different ways, and it's just about reminding each other to to I guess step up, and because I mean that's what a relationship all is about. It's all about giving and receiving.
Yeah, growing together.
Yeah, and like I guess what it took to let go of the anger. I'm a lot calmer person now, and take a lot have a lot more appreciation for the small things, because being that angry tradie, I guess I was just working, but why? For what? I didn't
Yeah,
know. I was just doing it because that's what you do.
that's a big source of anger right there, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just wanted a life with more meaning, and I was lost. I was lost. I didn't know what to do. So what it took. I mean, I was working in Brisbane at the time, and well, of those of you that know where Sunny Coast is and Brisbane, like it's a good hour drive. Plus, like I had lots of things going on. I was learning sign language part time as well. So, and that was also in Brisbane. So I was leaving home at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then prior to that, I was doing some meditation to try and work through my anger. So there was some nights, some mornings there, I was getting up at 3 o'clock, even earlier, to fit in that meditation, get ready for work, and I'd leave. I'd have to start work at 6, and then I would put in an 8 or 9 hour day, have a quick bite to eat, go to the gym, and then I would have a shower at the gym. And then I'd go over to class, which the gym was over near the class. So then I wasn't getting home until 9:15, 10 o'clock that night. That was just 2 nights a week. But then those other 3 days were that I was still like leaving early, still meditating in the mornings. But that's what it took to overcome my anger, as well as learning some tools to deal with day to day life, and work out what I actually wanted from life.
Yeah, get to know yourself. Like
Yeah,
there
yeah,
must have been that full of self discovery in that. Like not only the
yeah,
early mornings, the working yourself hard, the meditation, the sign language, challenging yourself constantly, and in all these different ways throughout the day. And I guess at the same time, luckily you're learning the tools that needed to sort of navigate that and get to know
yeah.
yourself
I mean,
effectively.
I haven't. I've done a couple of certificates in sign language now. So the next one, the next lot is the diploma and stuff like that. So I just haven't gone down that road yet, because I think I was essentially doing too much. I sort of got burnt out. But just stepping back, I mean, whenever you see me at the job I'm in now, it's sort of, I suppose it's sort of semi part time, I guess. And I've always got my earphones in, but I'm not listening to music. I'm always listening to books or podcasts, or just things that I can learn from.
Have you got through that Crossroads book?
I did, mate. Yeah, I did it. I don't know. It was a good book, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
It was a really good one,
Crossroads by Mark Donaldson.
mate. I read the Commando, and Cameron Baird. He wasn't so lucky as to he lost his life over there in the line of fire, and but it was good to I guess read two different perspectives. Like Cameron had a pretty good upbringing, but Mark not so much. So
Yeah.
I think recommend both books, and it's I'd love to meet Mark Donaldson in person, just to shake his hand, and yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
A friend of mine was in two commando, full-time commandos, and he was part of he was a sergeant anyway. And he met Donaldson a couple of times and said, yeah, great bloke, humble as anything.
Yeah, I mean, just the way he reads that book,
Yeah.
it's amazing what he went through as a child, and into his teenage years, and then what he went through, what he experienced in that one particular contact, when
Yeah.
they came in contact. It was just far out.
Everybody's Victoria Cross. That's
Yeah,
like stories like that. And that's why I sort of get into that stuff. And, it's not necessarily directly personal development or growth or anything like that, or the quantum physics or any of the stuff that I really love to read about, but it's just the epitome of coming from the gutter. And he came from literally the gutter. Like there was a point where he was stuck between the train and the platform at a railway station, covered in puke, covered in like every bodily
Shit
thing, and
himself.
covered in blood, and just drag himself out and drag himself
Yeah.
home, sleep in the gutter.
Yeah.
And from that to meeting the Queen and being the first VC recipient since Vietnam.
Yes, it's 1969, I think they said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And so,
unbelievable.
So there's a lot of gold in those sorts of stories too.
There is. And that I find like now that, look, I like pre-growth, I never ever used to read, mate. I was just always listening to music, and 9 times out of 10 it was angry music, like Metallica, and I guess there's a lot of grunge rock in there, and a lot of I guess, yeah, just angry music. And like I always used to tell myself that, well, I can't read. I'm not a good physical reader, but I can listen to it, and I know it's not the same, but it's just how I've adapted to take this stuff in.
Yeah, and we're all different, and it is too. That's again getting to know yourself, getting to know how you learn and how you're going to take stuff in. If you want to get somewhere, you got to master the self, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, mate. Exactly right, and it's just I just but yeah, there are times when I do listen to music because I just do need that balance.
Yeah,
I listen to a
yeah,
couple of,
I do the
but
same.
it's nowhere near as angry as what I used to listen to. It's a bit more laid back, but acoustic stuff now.
So sort of back to what we were talking about, like you've really gone deep and gone like really vulnerable into so much stuff that you've experienced, not only growing up but also growing up in recent years
Yes.
into your marriage and things like that. But what is it that you do now? Like, what is it? What's the snapshot of it now?
Well, I serve myself first thing in the morning, so I set my alarm for 10 to 4, and I don't always get up at that time, but the news is on at about 4 o'clock, so I usually listen to that. Then I'll get up for a stretch. I'll wet my face, get up for a stretch, and then I'll have a quick shot of coffee and get ready and go to the gym. At the gym at 5, and then do a workout. I'm a CrossFitter, by the way, so don't hold that against me. But CrossFitter for now anyway. So, but yeah, and then 5 to 6, then it's only a 2-minute drive to the beach. So then I usually go down the beach for a quick swim, and there's usually somebody down there that I can have a yarn with and just connect with, and then I'll make sure I'm home to take over from my wife, or if she has to go to work, or just spend a bit of time with the family before Indy goes to school and stuff like that. If I'm working, I'll go to work. If not, I'll just be just doing what I love doing, like creating content, or going down the beach, or talking to somebody. I'm
Yeah,
usually talking to somebody. I never saw myself as an extrovert, but the older I get, and the more people I meet that I'm congruent with, it's I'm definitely more of an extrovert these days than an introvert.
yeah, that was awesome. And you came and grabbed me, went down for a walk, one of your early morning
Yeah,
beach walks down there,
yeah,
just before my workshop. Um, when I forgot my hair gel, and you're good enough to
yeah,
drive back and give me some hair gel in a little
yeah.
little plastic
Ziploc
bags.
bag. Yeah.
I almost had to cancel the workshop. But yeah, no, that was great. And like, we walked along the beach, and you sort of already ran into a couple of people that you knew just
Yeah,
doing that at what 5 o'clock in the morning in
yeah.
sunrise.
It's good. I love it, mate. It's it's more of a locals beach. I'm not going to mention which it is, but there's going to maybe a locals beach. But no, it's a pretty good spot down there, mate. I was down there this morning, and the water, it's starting to get cold, so it's starting to get a bit harder to get in. But I usually, in the middle of winter, I usually get in for a minute, time myself for a minute, because it's just such a good reset, mate. It's
Yeah, like a cold shower.
it's a reset to this nervous system, and I believe that that you do comfortable things, or do easy things for a hard life, or do hard things for an easy life.
Yeah,
And this morning, after going to the gym, I I took my daughter to school, dropped her off, and arrived to work. I was feeling really good. I was feeling amazing. Just feel like I was ready for anything.
Absolutely. It's amazing. Like so many people adopt that traditional model of more sleep gives you more energy, or and you sort of start the day with your energy up here, and then it's out by the end of the day, and you go to sleep and you get it back. I think that's got to be thrown out the window, because things that give you energy, like sleep's just a small part of it.
It is. It is. I do. I think people learn to know how they operate best on however many hours sleep. And I get like 6.5, I suppose, 6.5 hours sleep a night. And any more, I mean, it's good, but there are times when I need to say to myself, no, you need a rest. You need a spell, because there was a time there 2-3 months ago that, look, I do think it was a flu, but I don't listen to my body enough. I do need to start listening to a bit more. And it knocked me for 6. I was in bed for 2 days with a migraine, and never had.
It gets louder when you don't listen to it.
It does, yeah, yeah. So I've sort of started to learn to. I'm working on learning to listen to my body a bit more.
There's been a fair bit of that around lately. I've been talking to a few people who have been getting the migraines, and well, every time I've spoken to them, it's you sort of work out what's going on in their life, and it comes back to their body forcing themselves to put themselves first because they're not doing it by choice.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And look, I think my immune system is pretty high, because being a plumber, I have had my hands in some pretty gnarly things over the years. So I think it has built my immune system up quite a bit. But it's definitely we need to listen to our bodies more. And do I feel guilty when I listen to my body? 100%. But yeah, it definitely benefits us so much when we just take that time out to rest. I mean,
and the people around us.
That's right. I train 5 to 6 days a week. We need that 1 day of rest, or 2 days of rest a week. So,
well, it's the rest and recovery that actually builds the muscle or builds the circuits or whatever you're trying to do. It's not built when you're damaging the muscle in the gym. It's when you're resting it that it's actually gets built.
Yeah, and I suppose the beauty of how I train, it's full body, it's functional, it's full body movement. You're not just concentrating on one particular muscle group. The workouts are pretty intense, and this morning was a good one. So, but yeah, it's all about balance, Shane.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Don't know how your CrossFitters will come and train in an MMA gym, but I don't know. You guys are really good at running away.
Yeah, running away and jumping over things. No, look, the thought has crossed my mind, because like I've always been that bigger person that nobody's sort of come and, I guess, mess with in my older years, but cop plenty of shit when I was younger, but I never really fought back. I just sort of took it. But there were times when I unloaded and just lost my shit majorly, and that's going back to when I was talking like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
So, but I would like to learn how to take a hit one day. I mean, like in a controlled environment.
Yeah.
So, it's when it's in a controlled environment, it'll be a lot safer, rather than just copping one out of nowhere.
It's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun, and I'll get a lot out of it. But
yeah. Hey, so you're MMA, are you?
I'm not training nearly as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
I've got to keep trying to redesign my schedule to do that more. I started out boxing when I was a lot younger, because my old man was a pro boxer, and and it was sort of, I don't know, it was in the blood a little bit. I was a natural at it. I was really good at it when I was young, and ended up getting out of that. And I just wanted something that was full body.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
started, doing a bit of that. It's definitely full body.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
There's quite a few gyms here on the coast that are pretty close to home that I can go and check out, do a free trial, I suppose.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're already fit. Like, yeah, because I was, especially with boxing and my lifestyle, I was always really upper body and all
Yeah,
that sort of thing. And after my first night, because I found an MMA gym that didn't really go easy on you. That sort of um, I liked it because they just didn't care what level you're at. If you want to jump in and have a go, you jump in and have a go.
yeah, okay.
So I did that on the first night, and rolling and sparring and all that sort of thing. And I remember waking up that night about midnight, and it was like my legs were just dead. I was like corking every muscle, cramps, everything. I was
Oh,
stuffed.
yeah,
It was
yeah, yeah.
good.
That's it's done something when that happens.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess there's so much great stuff around Engie here, and I guess going back to what we were talking about before, getting your morning routine and putting yourself first in the morning, like not only that burst of energy, that great feeling of putting yourself first, and then being able to show up for your family and for your kids
Well,
because
that's
your
yeah,
cup's full.
and for so long, I mean, like leaving home at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to a job that you're just doing because that's what you do. You don't particularly enjoy it. I mean, there are some times that you got to do what you don't want to do. But look, when we have a choice about what we do for a job, which like I thought that I'm too old now, I can't change. But after investing in myself, like and passing on what I've learned to others, it just doesn't feel like a job at all.
Yeah,
It's just so rewarding watching people grow and watching people succeed and just watching people just be happy because there was so long I was also searching for happiness, Shane, and just searching. I was looking everywhere for it, and I bought things to try to be happy. I moved from the Lockie Valley to the Sunshine Coast. I wanted to, I always wanted to live here ever since I was a kid. We used to come here for holidays,
yeah,
and I thought that, oh well, if I can live in my dream destination, then I'll be happy. I was happy for 6 months, but then I just fell back straight back into old habits and old patterns. And like even then, before all the shit hit the fan, my wife and I, we talked about divorce then. We talked about separating, but again, we just swept it under the carpet and just pushed it back down, suppressed it by just keeping on because that's what you do. And look, I believe that everything that's happened for me over these last few years, like again, it had to happen. It had to happen now. My wife and I now talk about it like we've been married uh, 12 years this year, but I said we sort of really talk about it that we've sort of really been married 2 years because it's been 2 years since the awakening for both of us.
yeah.
So we needed that wake up call for the both of us because essentially, if we had separated and we would have and we hadn't done anything, we would have ran back into the same people again.
Same relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
and
and that's sort of what I was just thinking too. I mean, it's sort of not to go into it at all because Trudy, your wife, isn't here or anything, but I mean, she obviously would have had just as much growth to do as you in maybe just different areas.
well, yeah, she did, and it took her a little bit longer because I mean, obviously the learning isn't at the same level as ours. And that's a fact that deaf people in their language with their language they're a lot further behind because they just don't hear the analogy, they don't hear the slang, they don't hear all those little sayings that
The
that,
tone
that
and
we
things.
that we hear. And so yeah, it took her a little bit longer, and I discovered that I'm one of the most impatient people you ever meet, but I was seeing
Don't
the
come across that
impatience
way.
in everybody else other than myself. And when I learned to uh, take accountability for being so impatient I definitely, there is a lot more room for patience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just about being aware of what's going on in that particular point in time of the day, or that particular point in time of the moment of the night, and just thinking, asking myself, can I control it? Is it worth being controlled, or do I just let it go and just take a deep breath and just carry on?
Yeah, that's that's dropping more gold right there, isn't it? Like this is stuff that most people we don't quite talk about. Well, I guess as men, we really value our independence. Like we're naturally wired to be independent. We push each other. You know, as a tradie working on construction sites, and for me, like in workshops and on the field and that, we're always pushing each other to be more independent.
Yes.
We don't tolerate dependence, and like anything, it's got its good and bad sides. And you know, all the wives at home and the basically the most of the world, I think, can find gratitude in that we're always pushing each other to strive and find our independence and find our force in the world.
Well, the one breakthrough moment I had was, it was just a simple little thing one day, and I watched my wife tie a rubbish bag, and I thought, fuck, that's not the way I did it. That's not the way I do it. But I find myself tying it exactly the same way that she does it, because it's just so much better. It's
Yeah,
so
right.
much better. I tried it, and then, oh yeah, it's so much better than the way she does it. And knowing that, having the awareness to stop myself, because the old me would have said, oh, you would have said in my mind, you don't fucking tie it like that.
Yeah,
But stop myself, and watching her, and then trying it out for myself, because what we judge, we must try.
yeah,
I've heard that a lot, because we can go into judgment too, like, it's that could be a whole separate topic, but that was a real breakthrough moment for me, is
that's
just
like
letting
a
go of that.
that's like a self-awareness, isn't it? Because
Mm.
you know, another thing as men, like we love to be competent. We love to know that we are competent and show our competence in whatever it is, whether it's tying a garbage bag or fixing a car or basically anything. We always want to show that we are competent. So if without that self-awareness, you watch your wife tying a garbage bag differently to how you do,
Mm.
and in the back of your mind, it might be a bit of a challenge. And it's like, no, I do it right. This is how you should do it.
Well, I'm not too sure whether it's competency based, but I think for me, it's coming back as a more perfection, like, and that goes back to our childhood, like, especially, well, mine. I'm not too sure about. I can't speak for anybody else, but I know, what we did as kids. We always expect, there was always more expected of us,
Yeah.
and it's. I mean, coming from a childhood where I was to be seen, not heard, and there be more expected out of you. It just sets us up for just taking ourselves too seriously most of the time, and sometimes I look back, and dancing with my daughter, I feel like trying to let that stuff go, like just being silly, and not taking myself too seriously. I'm still working on that too, mate, because I'd love to dance like no one's watching, but it's just that fear in the back of my head that I don't know what it is. But and I think that stems back from there's a book that I just finished reading, and it didn't start with you, and you recommended that to me,
Yeah.
and I just started it again today. But there was a point where one of my family members went through some pretty hard trauma, and I can remember that what she went through. I guess going to school after losing everything from the 1974 flood, like they had to have just wearing um, whatever they could get from the neighbours and stuff like that, and going to school and being laughed at because they lost everything. Like, I'm not too sure if that's a trait that I've taken on. because we can start to get into the science of this stuff, and what, how you feel. I mean, we all got to take responsibility for our feelings and emotions, but why are we feeling this way in our subconscious mind? Why? It's got to come from somewhere.
And there's normally certain words that you use, and you and I, especially after reading that book and knowing other stuff that we know, that there are ways to find these core words that we use to describe things, because the cells that we get from our ancestors and from our mother or grandmother, father, uncle, even, because it can go laterally across the family structure. These cells carry information. They carry information to us. And then this information is sort of transferred to our brain as a sensation, because the information in the cells isn't written in English, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's not in any language that we know, but it comes up as a sort of sensation and a feeling. And it's in a pretty deep in our unconscious. So when it comes up and we can sort of grasp it, and most of the time we don't realize that it's happening, and we don't realize that we're describing it because it's deep in our unconscious. So once we do the work required and we knuckle down and we find those couple of core words that are coming up at just that right time and that we use repetitively, and that gives us those clues into what might actually be going on, what trauma
And
we've taken on from our ancestors.
definitely. And I was at work at this one particular point, like during reading this book the first time or listening to it, and I went through a couple of exercises, and I wrote down a sentence, and it's I guess I've had a conversation with my mum about it, and I need to go a bit deeper. It could help her as well.
Yep.
But yeah, it definitely there's definitely something there that that's come from her, that's been passed on to me. Now, hereditary, I don't know. I don't like to say that it's hereditary, because I don't think it is. It's more being imprinted, and it's, I don't know. There's definitely a lot more research to be done on it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's pretty incredible emerging field.
And I just think that if we're not learning, we're or if we're not evolving, we're dissolving. Like I've heard that quite a few from quite a few people now, and it's so much. There's so much we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. And the more you learn, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah, it's not about not about becoming inspired, but I think it's just about, because like being a tradie, being on the decks, and like up on when you're working by yourself. That's when I used to find that my thoughts would run wild, run havoc. When I was just by myself, and but I used to like working by myself, because then didn't have any have to rely on anybody. If I made a mistake, it was up to me, my fault. But definitely finding out ways to overcome that negative self-talk, and beating yourself up so much, finding ways to um, I guess what's the word, counteract that
Yeah.
by learning at work. And like some people aren't lucky enough to do that, but being in a job where I'm unconsciously competent at it, it's it's why wouldn't I take the opportunity to get paid to learn?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Definitely. And that's what I do. I'll usually drive about 4 hours a day for work, 3 to 4 hours, or depending. And yeah, I generally spend that whole time listening to books and or whatever educational thing I can find. And I'll take notes on my voice recorder and things like that, and
Yeah,
get home and compile the notes. And so every day is a fucking awesome learning experience. Um, in the areas that I decide to learn in. Like it's incredible. And just like you, I'll start my day, I'll roll out of bed straight into a little workout.
yep,
And if I can, I've really pushed to try and have a cold shower. Um, if you can push yourself into a cold shower, it never ever gets easier.
No, it doesn't, mate. It doesn't. And I suppose there were a couple of times in summer this year where I got the opportunity to do a bit of breath work and jump into like a proper ice bath. This thing, it was a freezer, and I think he ran it for 4 hours a day, and there was icicles, ice just stayed in there all the time, and it was first experience I had was 3.5 minutes, and
It's a
it
long
didn't really
time.
do much. But then the second experience I did was 4.5 minutes, and that was like then I dunked my head under for tried to do it for 10 seconds, but that was just with my head poking out, and just that extra minute. Oh, the benefits of it was just well, I felt amazing, and I want to get something like that at home for here at home, because the health benefits that it can give you. Like, I mean, yeah, it's definitely uncomfortable, but to have something like that after a workout it'd be amazing every day.
Yeah, yeah, it's incredible, and even just the mental side. Like if you're, especially if you've got something on that day that you're sort of a bit worried, am I going to show up enough? Am I going to, have the balls to really go and take it by the horns? If you can get up in the morning and turn the shower on cold and step into that shower and stay under it for a bit, then you can take on anything that day,
And
and you've
it's
already had a major win against yourself.
That's right, and it's proven fact too that we burn off a lot of cortisol when we work out first thing in the morning. So now cortisol is a stress and the fear hormone, I'm pretty sure. And
Yeah,
when we burn that off, it's sort of we can go into the day a lot more calmer, like with a lot less stress to take on that day.
yeah. Well, I mean, my understanding of it, and don't quote me, is that we sort of produce it to counteract the stress.
Mm,
So
mm.
if we can prime that system first up in the morning and get it going and get it ready, then yeah, like you say, we're ready to take on the day.
And being a CrossFitter, mate, is Jesus Christ, take on anything.
Yeah, you can run away from anything. That's
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And then we get
so I guess I won't keep you too much longer, but like you've dropped some awesome stuff today. You really got vulnerable, and I think that gives permission to a lot of other blokes to be vulnerable and to be authentic and to show up and just say, you know what, I'm in the same boat. I guess I'm not alone. I guess I'm not a freak.
yeah,
Um, and just like you say, dancing, to be able to dance like no one's watching. Um, every time I've spoken to someone who wants that, I ask them to picture dancing like that at home where no one's watching. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, that's really uncomfortable. I don't really want to do that either. So
mm,
it's not that anyone else is watching, it's that you're watching yourself.
yeah, yeah,
And you're
yeah,
sort of outsourcing that and you're telling yourself that this is how everyone else is judging me. So when someone like yourself comes up and says, look, I've been through all this shit and I've decided to grow. This is where I was, and it's a place that so many people are and just can't admit it.
yeah.
It really gives permission to other people because it shows that maybe there's no excuses for actually showing up and being authentic.
Exactly. And it's what
Are
I
there
love most.
any other gold nuggets that you want to give to people who maybe are in that position that you were in before we wrap it up?
I guess, yeah, like you're not alone. Just reach out if you are going through a similar experience to me, or if you are just angry. Um, Reach out. There is help out there, and I guess for me, I seeked lots of different modalities out there, and I've sort of found that you know looking internally has looking at myself, and taking accountability for my own emotions and for my actions. That helped me, I guess, come to a sense of peace with my past. And there's still a few things I want to visit, but from my past. But it's how I go about it nowadays than how I would have went about it a couple of years ago. It's a lot more awareness, and there's a lot more love kindness, and empathy. Empathy is one of the biggest emotions, one of the best emotions I've ever learned, is to put yourself in somebody else's shoes without taking on their emotions.
Yeah, without taking
And
emotions. Yeah.
yeah, it's such an incredible experience to, you know, I've always been an emotion. Well, I've always known I've been an emotional man, but never really known how to deal with it. When I can just accept it and just show that I'm emotional, like Jesus, I had a tear in the last Rambo, like right at the end when he was when he's standing there and he's standing up on the hill, and she's looking up at him for as like a thank you. That's like, yeah, that was a moment where I had a few tears, that's for sure. And like Rambo, for fuck's sake.
I can CrossFit us.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's I guess, I mean, the longer we go on, the more goal we can definitely get. But I think the more we just ramble with a bit of shit too. So but yeah, just reach out. There's no shame in reaching out for help, for if you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired.
Yeah, and a lot of blokes, there's a lot of pressure on us to deal with our problems in the way that women do.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with the way that women deal with their problems, but it's not the way that we deal with our problems, and it's not the way that we're wired to.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with dealing with your problems as a man, which is talking to other men about your problems and finding solutions and finding the right tool for the job.
That's right.
Um,
Exactly.
so many blokes, I think, we have that typical thing of we want to be fearless, we want to appear fearless, we want to say, yep, I'll take anything on. But the way that we take it on is usually, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. And if you
Yes.
can't take on your inner self and take on yourself and your demons um, properly and really take the bull by the horns and not just shut the gate and put a wall up,
That's
then
right.
that's the same way that you're going to deal with every other external problem in life too.
And there was so many masks I had to take off too. So many masks I've worn over the years to just try and fit in. It's the older I guess, I don't know whether it's an age thing, but the older I get, the more humble I get with I mean, being alone and learning, and having my family around me, and just choosing who I have in my circle.
Yeah.
It's yeah, choosing, and just, yeah, there's quite a few things that I suppressed, by habits and stuff like that over my life. But realizing that and feeling like that I just don't need to suppress anymore. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. Like, like, to choose when to have a beer and when not to have a beer. It's Friday. I hardly ever drink anymore.
Yeah.
So I used to be a big pot smoker, but haven't touched that for quite a while. Well, long time. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
mm,
And it's those little differences, those little seemingly insignificant changes that make the big changes, the little changes you make.
upstairs. Yeah.
So yeah, that's been awesome, man. It's yeah. Thanks heaps for coming on and sharing the love. We've had a decent number of viewers throughout the hour, so I think
Yeah.
there's been a lot of gold. I hope people have taken a lot of notes and um, taken as much as you can out of this. Yeah, don't put it to waste. So
Yeah.
thanks heaps for coming on and sharing all that.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Shane.
Well, look, Trudy's just come on watching now, so it's good timing now.
I can see that. I can see the subtitles coming up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right. Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to find you?
Look, my just my name, Reece Krenske, or for the deaf community, Krenske Evolution. Like, we're never far away. I mean, Instagram, Reece Krenske. It's just Google my name, and you'll be able to find me.
Oh, careful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, you'll find a few other things too, but that's okay. There's nothing bad.
Yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, thanks a lot, mate. I'll chat to you soon and thanks for taking the hour.
No worries. Good on you, Shane. Thanks, brother.
All right, see you later.
You, mate.